What can I say about Cuphead? Well, I remember this game being one of the most anticipated games for me last generation. I remember when this game was revealed back in 2014, and at that time, the game looked to be an Xbox exclusive. So what did I do? Go buy an Xbox One. Well, Cuphead wasn't the only reason I got one. I also wanted to play Sunset Overdrive, Dead Rising 3, and a couple other titles, but this was definitely a huge factor in that decision. So I waited for Cuphead, and finally in 2017, Cuphead was released exclusively for Xbox. Now looking back at this is probably just a timed exclusive because Cuphead eventually came to all platforms, and man was it a hit. From people streaming their rage quitting sessions on Twitch, endless merchandise, a successful Netflix show that just got renewed for a second season, and now we have DLC coming out this month. But before the DLC lands, let's take a look at the base game one more time. Let's get into it. So what kind of game is Cuphead? The best way I can describe it, on one hand you have a straight up boss rush. Next you have these run and gun platforming section that reminds me a lot of Mega Man X and Contra. Mega Man X because you're running in one direction and can use techniques like a dash, you can use your finger blast as a Mega Buster. And somewhat of Contra due to the constant need to run and shoot. So there's a nice mixture of gameplay styles, and on top with flawless controls, this game is hard but yet fun to play. One of the biggest selling points when it comes to Cuphead is the hand-drawn animation aesthetic. Yeah, the game assets are completely hand-drawn, something we really don't see nowadays. Very reminiscent of the old school Disney cartoons and films, or something like Looney Tunes even. As someone who prefers this style of animation, I was sold on the look instantly, but that's also why it took so long to release. The game was developed by Studio MDHR, and from my knowledge, this is the only game they produced so far. And man, talk about coming out the gate swinging. Cuphead went on to win a bunch of awards and become critically acclaimed, and it's very well deserved. But let's get into the game itself. The story for this game is fairly simple. Cuphead and Mugman finds themselves in the Devil's Casino. While gambling in the game of craps, the devil promises the two all the riches of the island if they win. If not, they will have to give up their souls to him. So of course the pair loses, and now they must plead with the devil to not take their souls. The devil tells the two, if you can retrieve the soul contracts from others around the island, I'll let you go. And that's how our adventure starts. The island is split into 4 sections. Now to my surprise, the boss difficulty is not linear. Some players may find certain bosses harder than others depending on your playstyle. For example, I know many people think the 3-headed dragon is a difficult boss, but to me, he's not that bad. But I personally always had a very hard time with the Candyland boss. Hate it. The boss fights will definitely test your reflexes, and a lot of times you'll have to adapt on the fly. Since this game has unlimited lives, you can keep attempting these bosses until you get it right. The boss fights can also be a whole nother genre. For example, look at the Helderberg and the Robot. These levels are essentially shoot 'em up bullet hell levels. So yeah, be prepared to adapt. The run and gun stages would definitely test your platforming ability, and you really have to be on your square. These levels are not mandatory but highly encouraged because these levels are the only way you can get coins for the shop, which you can use to get new weapons, power-ups, and other things for Cuphead and Mugman. So as painful as it may be to do these stages. In terms of the weapon types, my go-to is the charge shot and the spread shot, but use whatever fits your playstyle the best. The music in this game is fantastic. I mean, truly fantastic, giving us a nice collection of big band jazz, 50s and 60s style music. This is the type of music that I associate with this era, and the type of music that fits perfectly with some of these older cartoons. So the soundtrack, it fits perfect with the aesthetic. I also love, and I mean love, the King Dice theme. Straight flames. Overall, I consider Cuphead a modern classic, and definitely one of my favorite games ever. The challenge can turn some players off, but I highly recommend you stick with it and try to master these bosses. Cuphead has an element of trial and error, and it's all about remembering patterns, so stick with it. It's worth it. I thank you all for watching this revisit, and I'll see you next time. And oh, don't forget, the DLC comes out this month. Come over to my Twitch channel if you want to see me struggle. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time.